Welcome back to the big one. Now, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo will, on Tuesday, February 21, deliver his first State of the Nation's address to Parliament. The delivery of the address is in accordance with Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution. Nana Akufo-Addo won the December 7 general elections with the MPP winning majority in Parliament. The President is expected to highlight the state of the economy, his free SHS program, and plans to boost and create jobs. Meanwhile, stakeholders in the agricultural sector want President Akufo-Addo to prioritize investment in the sector for job creation. They underscored the need for speedy implementation of policies that will accelerate growth in the agricultural sector.
The sector over the years has been the pivot of Ghana's economy, the sector being the highest contributor to Ghana's gross domestic product, employs 44% of the country's working force. However, lack of appropriate policies coupled with bad agronomic practices, lack of access to credit have been some of the major challenges confronting most farmers. Stakeholders expect the President in a State of the Nation address to highlight interventions to improve the sector. An Agricultural Extension Officer, Joe Mabel, who is also the Ghana South Municipal Director of Agriculture, is of the conviction committing resources to improve every sphere of the sector is a sure way to grow the economy.
Inadequate funding has been the main problem with the agric sector. And for that matter, we expect a lot of injection of funds into agric so that we'll be able to turn around the fortunes of our farmers and our fisher folks.
Farmers at the tuber irrigation farms want government to prioritize the implementation of its One Village, One Dam promise and also consider its extension to the southern part of the country to make Ghana food sufficient.
The Minister of Agric made us aware that this year they are going to bring seeds and fertilizers, and that's the farm inputs. So we expect that the President will highlight only that so that we farmers will benefit from those promises.
Right, so let's take you through some of the key MPP policy manifestos when it comes to energy and petroleum. A couple of them. The party in its manifesto said it was going to end doomsday through injection of liquidity and restructuring of debts, and also reduce taxes immediately on electricity tariffs to provide what they call immediate reliefs to households and industry as well. Now, they also promised to conduct a technical audit on all power sector infrastructure and develop and implement a 10-year power sector master plan, which they claim will be reviewed thereafter to meet medium to long-term energy needs. So these are key policies captured in the MPP manifesto. And also, it says it was going to develop and implement an energy sector financial restructuring and recovering. And this will, of course, come back to what they said will involve injection of capital. So this will incorporate liquidity management mechanisms for VRA, Electricity Company of Ghana, and the Northern Electricity Development and the BDCs. And finally, it wants to leverage natural gas as a long-term source to the operation of the power sector. Right, so those are actually major MPP policies when it comes to the energy. These are captured in the party's manifesto, and the key for me will be the need to end doomsday and inject a lot of capital into it. So let's quickly do some interaction now, and very shortly we'll be going on to Skype to speak with Philip Abayori, who is the president of the Ghanaian Agricultural Chamber of Commerce, and he will be joined. He is on Skype currently, and I have in the studio Dr. Adom, who is with the Director of Research of the Policy Institute of Energy and Climate Change. How are you? We're here again. So, energy. Let me quickly go to Philip Bayori. Mr. Bayori, how are you, sir? If you can hear me. So we'll be coming to you shortly, but I needed to be sure that you're hearing us. We'll be talking about the agric sector and the expectations from yourself in the State of the Nation's address and what recommendations you may have. But we will quickly trash out the energy bit of the expectations with Dr. Adom. So, Doc, I know that the party, the MPP, says it will end Doomsor. It is critical. Everybody wants Doomsor to end, but it is going to do that through injection of government liquidity. That's critical. It's going to also, in the long term, create what we read that a kind of gas dependence on natural gas for the long term. So, do you expect that some of these key promises will feature extensively in the President's State of the Nation's address Tuesday?
Thank you and good evening. Yes, obviously the thing that every Ghanaian will be expecting to hear from our new president is to get to know the things that they stated in their manifesto and the plans that they have as a government in trying to address it. And getting back to the things stated in their manifesto, at least you would admit that for Doomsor is not like a serious problem like it used to be in the past. At least we have in the short term actually moderated the problem a bit. And we would expect from the new government to tell us the measures they are going to put in place to make sure this benefit that at least the stable power sector that we are enjoying now at least is going to be sustainable in the long term. So obviously, yes, we are expecting that this thing will feature in his
State of the Nation's address. Now, quickly, let's talk about the issue of debts. The debts have been hanging over our necks for a long time. What would you say should be the posturing of government in addressing these debt issues once and for all?
Yeah. I think first and foremost, I think the first thing the government has to do is to let Ghanaians get a better, at least a clear overview of the debt situation as a country, and also to let the country know what the previous government did in terms of I'm sure they also put in some form of measures to address this issue. Then also coming into power, Ghanaians would also want to know what they are also bringing on board. And one of the things that I'm sure is going to be a topic after this
State of the Nation's
this statement is about this energy sector levy, because this was something that the
promise to remove. I remember we had a long conversation about that, and the finance minister feels that these are still needed to extinguish the debts. So you don't see that as maybe breaking of promises yet, right?
Yeah, for now. But you know, while some section of the public may take it in good faith, I'm not very sure that all Ghanaians would actually see this as a good news. But then I think as a leader, we are expecting that at least they would explain the true situation in terms of the energy sector. And if there's a need for us to retain, as we have always agitated for that, given the current state of the energy sector, it may not be a prudent decision to get rid of the levy immediately. So Ghanaians would also want to know, at least give it some kind of reasons why they should still continue to pay at least relatively higher.
Right, Dr. Duma, let me hold you briefly and go to Skype, where we have Philip Bayori. He's joining us. We'll switch our attention to the agric sector. There are expectations from agricultural groups like yours, for the president to touch on policies that will speedily spur the growth of the economy. Now, let me take you back to the New Year's school. The New Year's school, the government outlined a plan dubbed Planting for Food and Jobs, and they say it's expected to create about 750,000 jobs. Do you expect to hear more of the fine details of this plan during the president's presentation tomorrow?
One of the sectors that can really create jobs and also can improve our economic well-being. Now, if we are able to reduce the imports, it will also help stabilize the economy. Currently, you realize that the foreign exchange rate is escalating because we need a lot of foreign exchange to be able to import. And most of these imports are food items that we have competitive and comparative advantage to grow. So if efforts are being made as per what is said in the New Year school, and also if you look at what the Minister of Food and Agriculture outlined, the plan for planting for food, and also did indicate the support for the seed sector and also for the agro-input sector. That is one of the cardinal points of agricultural transformation. If you are able to increase production or supply spread of seeds to meet the demand of farmers, that also is going to increase yields. Now, another high issue on the agenda is irrigation. So then we talk about one village, one dam, which is also very essential because of climate change. Currently, the rains are very erratic. You can no more depend on rain-fed agriculture to be able to transform the sector. So the need for transformation of the agricultural sector, which will need increased investment and private sector participation. Then we talk about improve and appropriate technology application where farmers need to use the right tools, efficient tools to be able to be very competitive in productivity. And that will also need private sector participation apart from government injection of capital and also support. We need to be able to have medium to long-term agricultural financing to enable actors in the sector to be able to borrow for the medium and long term to be able to improve the systems. And that definitely will guarantee the jobs that are needed because the private sector has the capacity to create more jobs than the public sector. And I know definitely looking at the program and policy of the government in place, they would definitely pursue the agenda of private sector participation to ensure that the private sector is the leader, which the government will be behind the private sector for more sustainable growth of the sector. Because if we have to depend on government alone to be the driver, the resources are very thin and the investment that will come in will be very low. But if we are able, the government is able to woo the private sector to come into the fold, what will happen is that the banks need to be able to have some funds, medium to long term, to borrow to the actors to be able to improve productivity. While government look at the public good infrastructure, that should be the irrigation, especially irrigation development. And that should also be a private participation where we have built, operate, and transfer systems.
Right.
Then we look at value addition, where I think in part of the policy of the government, they talk about one district, one factory. That is very essential to be able to mop up the excess productivity. Because once they inject the systems of seed and also technology and also agro-inputs sufficiency, production will escalate and then we now have a glut in our hands. So these industries need to quickly be looked at so that in strategic points, investors, both in the private sector and public-private partnership, should be able to establish industries to mop up whatever excess production is going to be produced. That also is going to be an employment generator. So we have a vast agricultural sector which has a potential to even generate more than 750,000 jobs. And I hope, and as per the manifesto of the MPP and also with the will and declaration that has been made by the President and the Minister of Food and Agriculture, we should all come together to support this idea. One, it is good for our country to employ our youth. It is also good for our food security.
Right.
And also for price competitiveness. Because if we are able to produce our own food, what will happen is that the working force will have a less budget to procure food.
Right, Mr. Bayori.
Also, yeah.
Mr. Bayori, we're grateful for your time. Our time is running out, and we're extremely grateful for your time. Mr. Philip Bayori is with the agric commerce industry of commerce, and let's return to the studio for a wrap up. So let's look at this issue of energy. I know that your institute has been in support of a paradigm shift from energy rate issues, and you of the view, just like many civil society groups, that the rates should be reviewed to favor industries rather than domestic consumers. How do you expect this to be done?
I think that regarding the tariff structure, which I think is going to be one major thing that Ghanaians, or like both industries and households, will be listening to the president as to what they are bringing on board. You know, one thing that we should know is that the industrial sector is a sector, let's say, is the productive sector, and the residential sector is the consuming sector. So if you have these two sectors and you are trying to draw a tariff structure, one would expect that at least your tariff structure should be structured in such a way that at least it will benefit the production
that it will incentivize industries.
Yes, because from that sector you can have some spillover, you know, to the
But how is this possible, considering that the government is promising that they will they will remove some taxes from the petroleum sector taxes, and although the finance minister is going to keep the levies for a while, so that it will help alleviate the debt, existing debt. How is it possible that under all these cuts, we still expect that, for example, AGI wants rates for industries to be reduced? How are we able to sustain this?
You know, like to give a very honest overview about this whole thing, I feel that in as much as we are trying to incentivize this industrial sector,
we need to tread cautiously.
We need to tread cautiously and also put some kind of responsibility, you know, on them. I have this view that even with this reduction in taxes, at least we can, for example, if government wants to reduce corporate taxes, as mentioned in their manifesto, from 25 to 20%. At least what you can do is that you can reduce to, let's say, about 2%, where all industries at least benefit from that. The other 3% make it performance related, so that at least at the end of the day, as a country, we are not just losing some form of revenue, but at least you are also gaining from somewhere. Yeah.
Right, Mr. Philip Kofi Adom, Dr. Philip Kofi Adom, we're grateful for your time. Dr. Adom is Director of Research at the Institute of Energy and Climate Change Policy, and he joined us in the studio. This is still news at